Have you ever been really interested in something, and then the more you found out about it, the less you were interested in it? That's what happened to some of the followers of Jesus in John chapter 6. You remember in John 6, in the beginning of it, he feeds 5,000 people. And we then learn some other events as you read the remainder of the chapter. Beginning at verse 15, we're told that some of these people, therefore, when Jesus perceived that they were about to come, the people were about to come and take him by force and make him a king, it says that he left from them and he went somewhere by himself. Pretty fascinating that Jesus had done all these things, and their reaction is, let's make him a king. But then, when you read further in the chapter, some events that happened the very next day, in verse 66, we read, from that time on, from that point forward, many of his disciples turned from him and walked with him no more. What happened between verse 15 and verse 66? In verse 15, they're wanting to make him a king, even against his own will. It says they're wanting to come by force and make him a king, but they're wanting to make him a king. But then by the time you get to verse 66, which is less than 24 hours later, they're turning away from him and walking with him no more. What happened between these two incidents? Well, I think part of the answer is found when Jesus answers them the next day in verse 26. The crowd shows up again the next day when Jesus appears again to them. And in verse 26, Jesus says, most assuredly, so this is something very definitive, I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you. You see, these people were all wrapped up in the material and the physical, and they were interested in the food, and the next day, well, it was gone, and so apparently they wanted some more. And they wanted a king who would give them all the selfish pleasures that they could ever ask for. Jesus' idea of the kingdom and being a king was very different. In the remainder of chapter 6, he explains that to them. And as they begin to understand more fully that the kingdom was not material and not physical, but spiritual, well, apparently most of them had no interest in that anymore. And so they turned and they walked with him no more. One of the saddest verses that you'll read in the Bible, John 6, verse 66. And I hope it can never be said of any of us that the more we learn about Jesus, the less interested we become in him, and that we turn from him. But rather, that we don't want to make him a king by force. We want him to be the king that he really is. And so crown him King of Kings and Lord of Lords.